Valerie Hunt. Ask me anything. So I've got 2 great questions for the new year. So it's kind of fun to say that. I can now say 22 years of coaching running, 22 years since my first marathon. And I know a lot of people are like, this is it. I've already seen it. This is my year. I'm going to run a marathon, half marathon, 5K, 10K. And of course for me, my joy has switched from being the one crossing the finish line to taking you to the finish line. And it's really fun because since I've been there, I know what you're going through. And so the 2 questions I had today were really good. The first one was, how do I know I'm ready to go ahead and sign up for a marathon, which is a really good question. And then the second question was, which one's the better warm-up? A dynamic warm-up that includes things like leg swings or just going for an easy run for about 10 to 15 minutes. So of course I said the short answer is both, right? So first let me just talk about, since it's kind of like Happy New Year 22-22 goal, my thing is of course running pain-free. That's when I first got into running itself. I wasn't a runner, my background is not running. But I started running recreationally, signing up for 5Ks, 10Ks when I was in college, and realized very quickly, I am not very good at this running thing. And immediately went looking for I was certified in everything. I was a fitness instructor, personal trainer. So I was like, well, let me get that running certification. Well, there really wasn't one. So I found a running technique, and it's called Pose Method. I've been coaching it ever since. And what I've discovered over the years and years of running and teaching running and coaching runners is the way you know you're ready to sign up for a race is when you really know you feel like you can run for a certain amount of time and feel comfortable, not in pain, I'm feeling good. But funny story, when we started first running, there wasn't really training plans. It's a long time ago. And so of course we would just show up and run. And the fun part of running is you meet somebody else and you're like, hey, want to go running? And in the beginning, it was really funny. We'd never been running, so we just showed up. And then there was like, okay, accountability, right? And so when I signed up for my first marathon, I hadn't really done anything but a 10K at the time. And my friend's like, oh, it's so much fun. Okay, so I signed up, and it wasn't that much fun. I got through it. I ran through it. I got through it. I survived it. And then I immediately signed up for my next one 2 weeks later because I was like, I have to be better than that. And then of course learned that's not how you sign up. That was even another fun story. But the reality is no one had yet really taught me, or I hadn't understood yet, that A, you should understand the movement of running. Is your body ready to handle you going out for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever your race time is going to be, right? So please spend some time. This would be what I say. If you're already like, I'm running 10Ks, I've done several halves, I'm not in pain, then yeah, sign up. If I'm just really getting into running, then I would say take some time with just running. Like really get in some 5Ks, 10Ks, start just feeling what is running all about. And of course, that's kind of where I come in. What is running all about? So one of the things I would recommend for all of you, if you haven't done this yet, is go through the RunnerX Reboot on YouTube. It's totally free. It takes you through the practice of how to get started practicing for your run. And then it takes you through skill, strength, and self-care, all for your run. Because things, even if you're just an amazing runner, we're still going to have things that come up. I mean, I still do tons of self-care, ankle work, calves, hips, you name it, because I want to keep running all the time, right? So that would be my answer, is make sure you're already in a place where you feel comfortable with running. And if you're not yet there, or you want to get better, then let's come through that reboot. The second question was about the warm-ups. So it's kind of fun because what are you about to go do when you run, right? You're about to what? And the answer was like, go running. Yeah, but you're also about to load your body and hold your body weight for an amount of time. And where is that load primarily when you run? Where is most of your body weight on you when you run? Your feet, right? So the first thing to think about is, I need to make sure my feet are ready to go running. And I don't know if we think about that. A lot of us think about our calves, just so you know. I do see a lot of like calf stretching, things like that. But remember, where's your body weight? It's on the foot. So my answer when we talk about warm-up, and of course there's a great warm-up in the RunRx reboot. So I'm not going to take you through a full warm-up, but imagine if I was following someone on social media or looked at a group of runners and just started seeing what are people doing in their warm-up. I can only imagine how hard it is to kind of come up with what should I do. Because I see people, and we see this, I see people doing this, or you see people doing this, or just kind of, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, hopping around, we see some sideways stuff, right? So ideally, what's the right one? Leg swing. So my thing is, remember what is running? Well, running itself is free falling. And then what is the gait cycle of running? Well, then there is where it gets a little more interesting. What is my job when I run? What do I need to be ready to go do for running? I need to be ready to both do two things. One is my job is pulling. So not only do I need to make sure I'm ready to pull my foot, but also I need to warm up my feet, my ankles, and my calves to be ready for what? Running. And running itself, anything with an ing, I-N-G, there's activity going on. So in running, my foot's going to touch the ground, I'm going to pull it up. So I want to make sure that one, I kind of wake up my muscle elasticity, check in, that I've got my springs are on. And then of course I want to warm up the movement that I'm going to do for my run. And then maybe even some running, right? And then of course you would travel. How do you travel in running? You fall. So inside of my run warm-up, I want to have three things. Some skill practice, which is going to be all about what is my skill necessary for running. It's to hold my ears, shoulders, hips in line and pull my ankle up under my hip using my hamstring. So I'm going to include in my warm-up the actual movement of running, which is pulling the foot up. And in your practice, everything's exaggerated. So then you're like, all right, I'm going to practice my pulls. I'm also going to do some hops for my elasticity. I'm going to do some single pulls, right? And then I'll take off, and that's when you can have some fun with, again, it's all about falling. But I'm also thinking to myself about what I'm about to do, right? Because if someone said to me, so in my running warm-up, and like I said, there's one on YouTube. It's not like this is the end all, but I include in my warm-ups a lot of this, right? Number one, you've got to talk to your feet. So I'm going to give you one of each. So one for the ankle. This is just making sure the ankle is able to do this, right? So by the way, but if I go this way with my ankle, what else should I do? Right? Come this way. So we're making sure we have that range of motion in the ankle because I'm about to run and I want my ankles to be nice and relaxed in my run, right? Really important. Then you're going to start using your hips. So maybe doing, if I can't sit, I might do some standing hip openers. I have seated hip openers in my warm-up, but I'm going to stay standing. So instead of a leg swing, you could even think about doing some, and I shouldn't call it an opener. It's just really moving the hip through its full range of motion, right? And then arm circles, because again, I need to be able to have all of my joints nice and loose and open, and going through their full range of motion is very important. So my wrist as well, like everything needs to be ready to go, right? The fun part with running is it doesn't have to be excessive. It just has to be enough that you've like talked to all of your body parts, kind of seen where they are for the day. And then I just go right into my elasticity, and then just like I showed you, making sure you practice some pulling, really dialing into, okay, this is what I need to do today, how's my hamstring, and then getting into the run. And then I'm going to say real quick, easy run, hard run. I think the big discussion on that for me, I just said this to my running group, there's no such thing as an easy run. And I say that because running itself is hard, and there's nothing easy about it. What I like to talk about is less effort. Less effort. And what is really effort in running? Really, it's breathing, right? It's my breath, it's my cardio, it's my ability to hold my upper body in the right position. That's really hard for, that's the hardest 68% of your body weight from your hip to your head, right? So there's nothing easy. The easy, I think what people are wanting to say is easy is like not a sprint, a warm-up pace. But to start thinking about your running a little bit differently, instead of thinking I'm gonna run easy, I'm gonna run hard, why don't you start thinking, I'm gonna fall just enough, watch, I'm gonna fall just enough to start pulling. So then when I'm running my warm-up, okay, so say I just did all my pulls, I did some hops. You see, I'm gonna find like a nice cadence. I like 180. Up, 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 up. So this is, I'm at a cadence that I can hold. My foot is pulling just barely off the ground. And then I'm going to start to fall so I can actually start to run. What happens then is that as you continue, you choose, do I want to increase my angle of fall, right? Do I want to use more cardio? Do I want to hold myself? Yes, you're going to run faster, it's a byproduct, but the reality is what your intention is. And so in the beginning of my run, I should be holding a fall angle, basically, that I can sustain, because it's the beginning of the run. And then you can play with going a bit further. So have fun with that, because the reality is if you start thinking running is easy or running is hard, it's going to change. You think it's a different movement. There's not a different movement in the running. It's just if I'm running at a conversational pace, I'm holding here. If I'm following here, watch, my cadence is going to go up. My pull is going to be a lot higher. I need to be prepared for that. So the fun part too, guys, though, hey guys, remember you're welcome to ask a question. I thought I saw a question. Oh good, so you're the one that asked the question. And then I want you to know, Paula, that I love things like leg swings. I think all of this stuff is really important. And so what people will say to me is like, oh, I don't have time. So plan time for a warm-up. It is really important. Do stuff inside. Like if it's cold outside and you're like, I don't want to stand around and warm up, I want to start my run, then stay inside and do your warm-up. It doesn't matter if it's before, I don't have to be right into the run. Maybe I even get in my car and go, but I've worked on my hips a little bit. I've worked on my feet and ankles. That way when I start running, it's just running. And that's the fun of it for me, because when I start my run, depending on the length I'm going to run, the distance I'm going to run, that can determine how long you want to spend at what kind of pace or angle of fall, right? That's kind of the fun. All right, I did have one more question, so I'll answer that. So, I love this thing. I got this for $5, Five Below. But you can use a curb outside. It's just so easy to demo. So one of the questions I get a lot is, what's the difference between push and pull? And I had a picture up the other day of a girl pushing and then pulling. And someone said, I just can't see it. I can't see the difference. So I want to help you to see it with an action. So what does that mean? That means if this curb was behind me, okay, and someone said, hey, let's want to race, you know, like sprints. So like say I'm here, right? So our thought, and I was like this too, it's like we have this thought that if we take the foot and push it, that it's going to take us forward. And let me just show you, there is some truth to that. But if I take my back foot and I push, I'm going to push into the curb, right? I'm going to push. You see what happens is my back foot actually travels back, and that causes this foot to come forward. So the thing is, we see like the sprinters, such a cool thing, right? They're like on the blocks and they're like this, right? And what we see isn't really what is going on. What's actually happening is when they let go of their hands, they're falling, and their foot that's on the ground is actually the one that pulls up. But what we see in the picture, because it's very prevalent, this leg does go back because that's the movement. But it's actually what's happening is as it's going back, instead of reaching back with the hip is actually doing this. So here's your challenge, okay? Say we do the same exact thing. I want you to just try to feel it. You don't have to have a curve. I'm just using the curve. If I push for running, not for sprinting, not for trying to run fast, but just running in general, guys, look at what happens. If I push my back foot back, see? It's just pressure against this thing, right? It doesn't make any sense. If I have no weight on this, okay, say you ask me again, let's race. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And you're back here pushing, and I instead, look, there's no weight on the foot if I just pull it. If I just fall forward and pull, I'm still gonna travel, right? But I don't have to worry about trying to kick something behind me. So if you're pushing when you run, your thought is that you're pushing to go forward. But what's actually happening is your leg goes back and the other leg goes forward. So pulling is almost no muscular effort. It's really a challenge. And when I say that, pushing is like it's push, you know? So we've been pushing to jump forever, when you should. If you want to get up there, you don't have to push because you're trying to go up. But in running, you're not. And so you have to learn that instead of that push, you're basically just picking the foot up with your hamstring without putting weight into the ground. Here's the challenge. When the lifted foot drops, that's when you feel your body weight. So it's not that I'm not saying the foot drops, because it sure does, but your job is simply that once it does drop, to pull it. And pulling, honestly, is not hard. Remember we just talked about hard. It's not a lot of effort either. So when you're running in place, just try this with me. Just bend your knees and run in place. Ready? Just pull, think up. Now, just try to kick back. This is pushing. And you can feel right away, you can hear it, and my foot is behind me. If you're here and your foot's behind you, your hamstring muscle is active. And that means it's like putting a weight on my ankle. Like we're in the weight room doing hamstring kicks. You don't want to do hamstring kicks when you run. You want to do fall and pull and let the hamstring bring the foot. I'm telling you, go back a little bit later when you have a little bit of time and play with this, and you'll feel that if you just stand in place, here, I'll get my curve. If I'm here in place and I pull up, I'm never going to kick the curve. But if I, see, you want to go this way, and you have to realize that the foot going up allows it to come forward with you. You will always feel, just so you know, in your run, you will always feel up. Up, 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 up. But if you allow yourself to fall, you actually will travel forward. And your foot will go with you. So if you're running and you've got some calf soreness is common with pushing. So my calves are getting worked. Usually anybody that's got a high hamstring, also from pushing. And then it also makes your upper body kind of rock forward. So grab a curb, go outside and just feel it. Up, up. And if that knee is bent, that foot pulls right up under you. All right, great questions today. I hope I answered them. If you have other questions, you can always comment here. You can comment on the Instagram, and you can always send us an email to support@runrx.fit. We're happy to answer the questions. I come on every Wednesday. And again, give that reboot a try if you haven't done it. And talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much.